It's not just physical education. It's because it's all the kind of self-esteem building, life skill stuff. That's all socio-emotional learning. That's crux of PE in and of itself. And then we weave in other topics. So for instance, we're talking about what teams are in the Super Bowl, what states are those teams from? If we're talking about our heart rate and doing a routine of boom, boom, pow, we're talking about the heart rate of a chicken versus an elephant. So all these other topics are woven in, but definitely schools are resistant to give up precious minutes for something that they think they're just jumping around.
Hello and welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast, where each week we talk about ideas for raising kids who become thriving adults. I'm your host, Audrey Monkey. Here on the podcast, I share my experiences raising 5 kids who currently range in age from 16 to 26 and working with thousands more as a summer camp director over the past 3 decades. I'm the author of Happy Campers, and I frequently do workshops with parents, teachers, and summer camp professionals about social skills, connection, and happiness, topics I researched extensively for my master's in psychology. If you want tools for raising kind, optimistic, self-reliant kids who become thriving adults, you've come to the right place. Hey, Sunshine Parenting listeners. Before we get to this important and informative interview, I want to share with you this week's one simple thing. This week's tip is something that I came up with last weekend to try to make our weekend chores a little more fun. First, I created a list of each task that needed to be done. Things like sweeping the kitchen floor. That was one task. And then mopping the kitchen floor was a second task. Dusting, collecting trash from the house, refilling soap dispensers, and cleaning the refrigerator were other examples of cleaning tasks that were on the list. I called the kids together and we did a cleaning chore draft. I had them each pick a card from a deck of cards, and the person with the highest card got to pick first. And then it just kept going like a regular draft, repeating until all the chores were selected. The only guidelines I gave were that the chores needed to be completed by 5 p.m. on Sunday. When the weekend ended, everybody had done some chores around the house, and the house felt a lot cleaner. Which is good, because we're all spending a lot more time here these days. I'm excited to bring you this week's podcast interview with Apryl Krakovsky. Apryl is the founder and executive director of My School in Motion. Apryl started the program at her own children's elementary school, and it is now in over 52 schools. It's an award-winning program that gets the whole school moving and learning every day. Apryl and her team developed the program because they know that physical activity undertaken at the start of each school day improves students' mood, improves their focus, their physical health, stimulates brain activity, and sets students up for a day of maximum learning. I'm thrilled to welcome My School in Motion founder and executive director, Apryl Krakovsky, to this week's episode. Welcome to the podcast, Apryl.
Hi, so happy to be talking with you today, Sunshine, really.
Oh, thanks. I'm excited to talk to you too. So why don't we start by just introducing yourself to listeners? Tell about who you are and what you do.
Oh, that's a lot of things. But the reason we're talking today is my name is Apryl Krakovsky, and I am the founder and CEO of My School in Motion. So the short story is I started the program because our school was started for not enough PE minutes. But the longer story, which I think is really important to understand because it goes to my background and really why the program is what it is and the content and the heart and the soul of it and why it works. So I had been a teacher in a past life. I was very passionate about education as far back as I can remember. I myself went to 5 different elementary schools, moved around a lot, and just always had a good feeling about school. That was a positive place for me and how my teachers made me feel. And psychology major, really interested in self-esteem building, teaching credential from UCLA, master's, spoke at the commencement, so passionate, taught in this classroom for 2 years, inner city, and really burnt out quickly and knew it was the most important and best profession in the world, and was going to take a break, and ended up, getting a job at a big law firm, learned trademark law, later on went on into law school, had my first 2 children in law school, planned my life out. I was going to come out, practice law part-time, raise my babies. Anyway, ended up deciding to stay home, which was the best decision I ever made, and had the luxury to do that with my family, had a 3rd child. And then it was really when my oldest went back, started school, kindergarten, that my passion for education, which had always been there and showing itself in different ways, it was really reignited. And I started volunteering in the classroom and teaching the parent-led art program, which is how I ended up being there in that random conversation with the principal when we found out we were cited for not enough PE minutes. The other piece of that very too long story is that I was not active as a kid at all. I had an older brother who was involved in team sports, and I have a lot of fond memories of going to his games, but I myself wasn't active. And it really was in my early 20s when I self-discovered the power of movement. And, once I did, it's been really the cornerstone of my own, mental and emotional health for forever and ever since. And I had a ton of experience. So I guess a long way of saying, because my school of motion is basically a fitness-based physical education, nutrition, health, and wellness program.
Sure.
That was designed to get the whole entire school moving together as part of instructional minutes, part of the school day. So that's the long answer, and I should have started with that, as to what the program is and why I was a really uniquely qualified parent volunteer. And so this idea that I could bring to our local community, this power of movement. I learned that if I went for a run in the morning, I then could, everything just looked better. It was like putting on a totally different colored glasses for the rest of the day.
Right.
Here was the opportunity to bring that to the school. And what I also loved about my own running, or different things I did, was the camaraderie and the community that was built around that. So the program itself then, so when that looked like, I knew that I wanted to reach everybody. And I had a principal who, she biked to school. So she was a believer in the power of movement. Again, one of those pieces of this that had to really be in play. So she was up for doing something big. And so I kind of set out to get ideas, this and that. But anyway, to make a long story short, I went to a conference where one of the PE teachers there taught us a routine to Thriller. And it was really fun. And I was the last person in a crowd to want to get up and dance, and always very inhibited. But with this, I could do Thriller, and it was doable. And I thought, okay, here's the foundation for this program. And came back, and we, decided to launch Overland in Motion. And the name, that was the idea being that just some kind of movement, and redefining what people thought of as PE and exercise, and this idea that there's all types of way that we can move our bodies. And so, and just importantly to me, I wanted to get everybody moving, but I really was just important that everybody understood the benefits, and the immediate benefits, not just the long-term health benefits that the physical activity was having on their energy and on their ability to focus and on their moods. So
let me just pipe in. This is such a great story, and I love that you
just
were.
like blabbering.
Oh, I love it. It's that you were. I think it's very inspirational, because it's like how most good things start. That you see a problem and you happen to have some ideas of how to solve it, and you just did it. Right. Which I think a lot of people don't take that initiative. So congratulations for doing that. And what started probably when you first started, you thought you were going to be helping out at your kids' school and helping them get their PE hours, and now it's turned into this whole thing, which is great. And now you've brought this to so many places. Well, I think it's so relevant right now, because I know, I actually, a lot of our staff and even a few of my own kids are teachers. And in a lot of schools, PE is really either getting, set aside or cut in time, all of those kind of extra things. So did this kind of take the place of PE by doing it every morning, or was it in addition to PE at the original school, or in these schools where you do it now?
Right. Now, that's an excellent question. And so the idea is that this is supposed to be a piece of the PE program. And so what was going on again in the school, our initial school, and in a lot of schools, is they're not even doing enough PE. But the idea is by doing this, and it was initially designed to be 15 minutes. And again, it's instructional minutes. That's how it counts. But it's also why you get everybody there, because everybody's there, the teachers too, right? So they have to be there. And it was intended for the school initially to be a fundamental part of the PE program. But then what would happen, because everybody had this really positive PE experience and getting comfortable in their own bodies, and the classroom teachers being a big part of that, they would then feel more comfortable. The other minutes that they were spending in other teacher-led instructional PE went up as well. Because it's kind of like if you do something in the morning and you just get more comfortable with it, you're like, okay, now I want to do this and now I want to do that. So that was the idea. So it could serve, if you did nothing else, it is PE. And we worked, I've worked with pupils at different school districts and stuff like that. It was innovative, and it wasn't what they were used to seeing PE look like, like the PE that it used to look like, which I was part of when I was a kid, where I was literally the last picked for kickball and dodgeball. It's like the teacher gets out there, they tell something, and they give you the ball. I mean, and that's not to say there are some phenomenal PE teachers now, and PE looks a lot differently. But the definition is changing in terms of the emphasis is, enjoying, fitness-based stuff where we're doing these exercises that you've got a group of people there, but it's not in a competitive setting you're setting goals with yourself. So that was the idea. So yeah, the 15 minutes would count towards it, and then they can do other things, because it's not going to, there's obviously so many benefits to team sports as well, and other things that require equipment that you can't do there on the yard.
Well, it really reminds me, when I watched the little news clip that you sent me of your kids' school, it really reminded me a lot of what we do at camp, this morning assembly time where we're all together. It's a community thing, because when you're doing something together, and if you're all doing a dance, whether it's to Thriller or something else, and everyone learns the moves, that really raises a sense of belonging. So not only are you getting the kids some exercise, but you're also like, everyone's learning the same thing. And if the teachers are doing it with you, they're kind of playing with the kids.
Yeah.
So awesome. So it's really awesome on many levels, not just the fact that kids are getting their blood pumping and getting some exercise and fulfilling their PE. It's really, I think, can change the whole culture of a school. And is that what you found?
It is 110%. And I always said, I've even had, it absolutely changed the school culture. It's inclusive. Everybody's participating. It's a common language. They learn these routines. One of my favorite parts of the day is when I'm just getting ready and I turn music on. I mean, I think the power of movement, music, and people, you turn music on. I would turn on a song and I would see the spontaneous combustion throughout the schoolyard. This was before school even started, because kids knew the routines. But it is, and I used to tell people, and that's why it's, with you and the camp, and I would say it's like bringing camp to the schools. Camp, in your camp, it's a place where kids feel emotionally safe. And that's what this created on the schoolyard. And teachers create that in their classroom. Some do it better than others. And this levels the playing field, because you've got one or two people leading it and everybody's part of it. And even some of those teachers who are wonderful people, but maybe they're just not inclined to kind of teach at that emotional level, whatever it is. It's contagious. And I always tell people, because people will hear, and that's where we get to kind of the growth of the program and why and how and scaling. It's like, they'll hear, oh yeah, we exercise, we do this. And I mean, if we did nothing else but get kids moving every morning, that would be great, because you'd have the benefits, and we can talk about the research behind that. But to me, that's just the beginning with this program, because it's all that other stuff. It's the connectivity, which happens, like you said, just from the fact that you're learning the moves. But on top of that, from the beginning, what we weaved in, or what I weaved in, and was other pieces of the program. So the movement routines are there to get them moving, and cardiorespiratory stuff, and strengthening, and balance, and flexibility, and even crossing the midline so you get brain activation. But from the get-go, there was always positive messaging, because to get their attention, when a group of 500 people are out there, you can't say clap once if you could hear me. But I would put my arms over my head and say, okay, repeat after me, do after me. And it would be something like this. We are Overland. And they'd repeat it. We are Overland. Like, again, very camp like this. Repeat after me. And then we are. Our bodies were born to move. Or it could be think thankful, be happy, thankful for friendship, thankful for teachers, thankful for music. And so this formula revealed itself. It would always start with that repeat after me, do after me. And the messaging was, just across the board. It could be 5 fruits and veggies a day, or, set a goal, see it through, goal start with the thing. So again, it's like this pep rally meets line dancing, but it was that positivity. It just changed the school culture for everybody. And then the music would be woven in order to, so it could be setting a goal. It could be Eminem's Lose Yourself, or, it was across it. So again, very camp-like. And we have kids in school 5 days a week. So if you can create that positive energy, and then it bleeds off of the schoolyard, they take it home. Yeah.
So when you do this at schools, do they start earlier, or do they just start it at the start of their day and just kind of rearrange the rest of the schedule?
It's at the beginning of the school day. So whenever their school day starts, the program was, again, I had the luxury at my school to do it. And many of our school, the school, it's supposed to be at the beginning of the school day, which words matter, right? So it's that they don't start school any earlier. And it was not intended originally to be a before school program. So, but that said, there are schools, as this has evolved, people will come to me and say, well, I'd like to do it before school. Okay, so great. And I have a school that recently just started here locally. I live in Los Angeles, the Santa Monica School, and they started doing it before school. Now, the principal was really smart about how she messaged it out to the parents, and they actually had to sign their kids up to do it because, again, if it's part of the school day, everybody's there and they need to be there. Now, if you've got to deliver once they're there and give them something that's going to be fun and engaging and that they're going to want to do, otherwise it's not going to work. But if it's before school, it's strictly voluntary. But yeah, so it's at the beginning of the school day. And then the other thing we'll get, and you might guess, is, well, we can't take away instructional minutes, right? And the way that we've dealt with that is you're actually redirecting instructional minutes, because these are, it's not just physical education, it's the other, because it's so important, all the messaging that goes with that. I mean, all the kind of self-esteem building, life skill stuff, that's all socio-emotional learning. That's, just a crux of PE in and of itself. And then with the My School in Motion program, we weave in other topics. So for instance, if it's Super Bowl time, we're talking about what teams are in the Super Bowl, what states are those teams from? If we're talking about our heart rate and doing a routine of boom, boom, pow, we're talking about, we start talking about the heart rate of a chicken versus an elephant and inverse correlation. So all these other topics are woven in, but definitely schools are resistant to give up precious minutes for something that they think they're just jumping around.
I know. And then, okay, so let's get to that. Cause I'm a believer in the jumping around, and I know that there's so much research now telling us that if we all just moved our bodies more, we would feel better, work better, everything, and from kids to adults. And I know, I remember reading a study, and I think I shared this with you in an email, that, kids who have attention disorders, that 10 minutes of like exercise works better than most medications for them. And so if it was just part of the day for everybody, it helps everybody focus and learn better when we're there. I'm with you. I'm a runner. And when I don't run in the morning, my brain doesn't work as well. Can't write as well. It's like everything is better. So what are some of the other research that you go into these schools with and say, what are the findings at these schools that have done My School in Motion? What are the things that the teachers and the students and the parents are saying? What are the benefits of it?
Yeah, so definitely. So kids are in class and on task earlier, and I mean on task. So for instance, at Overland, it used to be you'd get to school, you'd line up, you'd meet your teacher, blah, blah, blah. But they found their kids. So this is now the school bell rings, we start. Kids were on task and focused. Behavior referrals went down. In terms of the My School in Motion schools, we haven't done a lot of like scientific studies, because you can put your resources and time either helping the teachers or doing that. But we have all our anecdotal evidence. We have the test scores went up for the first 3 years at a school actually where test scores were already very high. It's actually harder to move the needle, and they went up significantly, and classroom size went up too. That kind of stuff. And then we really point to the research, and what I arm, teachers or parents or anybody in the school community who wants to help promote a program, whether it's our program or somebody else's, but is the other research that is out there, like you referred to. There is a wealth of research now over the past 10 years showing that when you do it could be as little as 10 minutes. And there are studies. One of my favorite books is Spark by John Rady. My kids used to say, "Mom, enough with the Spark book." I would just give it. I had copies. He didn't even give it to me. I'd give them out to people, because it does such a great job in layperson's terms of describing the physiology and beyond the runner's high of what's happening with your neurons when you're exercising. So I put that in the hands of educators and actually incentivize them to read it, or just read the first 6 pages. And then it's schools that have their kids doing like 0-hour PE or scheduling PE before their hardest topics are definitely seeing increased improvement in those academic subjects. So I put that research in front of them, and there's more and more all the time. I mean, I have a whole kind of mailbox full of those articles. And then it becomes a leap of faith almost. Once the people that are already on board get it. But the people that are a little skeptical, if you have if you build it, they will come. If somebody starts doing it and it's getting done, whether it means the program, and then they go back and they see that, oh my gosh, my students are more focused, and oh wow, they are performing better. It's that ability to, because you can put a ton of research in front of people, that constantly, but you got to take the next step, which is for them it's got to be easy for them to make the change.
So when a school wants to do this, obviously now you're up to, you said, how many schools are participating now?
53 schools, yeah.
53 schools. And obviously you're not there leading the assemblies anymore. Mm-hmm. So mm-hmm. How do you have a training for the people doing it? Do you just provide resources? How does it work at a school? Is it someone already there who does it?
Yeah. So what we found, and again, when this started and it was working, people want to replicate it. And it won, because it won like $10,000 the first year from the Governor's Council. It won a national award loosely tied to Michelle Obama. People wanted to replicate this thing. And I had literally 800 index cards worth of material and the formula, and people who wanted to help me put this together, who have donated tons of time. And I said, okay, well, if we're going to do this, it has to be usable by teachers or any other person who works with youth. And so the way that we do that is, and the idea being that you train the people at the schools, because that's the sustainability piece. Mm-hmm. Your own, if you send somebody here and there, but when the school takes it on, and it could be a teacher, it could be an after school coach, just somebody who knows how to manage a large class, that's the way it's done. And we have training videos. So when a school signs on, there's the movement routines there's all a video. So we have over 70 of the movement routines. And then there's a video for the repeat after me, do after me, repeat that part that I told you. There's a video for every session ends with, it's basically a sun salutation where they say, talk about a camp-like thing, and that you don't normally see in schools is, good morning, sky. Hello, feet. Good morning, sky. It feels good to be me. And for instance, so there's all videos for that. I mean, it's precious. And then you teach them focus breathing. So everything's on video. And then there's the program manual, which has 200 daily movement and learning plans. Those are the dailies. And those are what my index cards were. Literally, when I would wake up and whatever the messaging was going to be that day, could have been that I saw a rainbow that morning. So I'd be like, eat a rainbow every day, red pepper, orange carrots.
Yeah.
Anyway, those exist on a sheet. And so it's very easily, this is why the schools that are doing it, the teachers love it. It's because even the best teachers just don't have the time to create content and formula. And that's also why we have some schools that have been doing it up to 10 years, because there's so much of it. You don't need a separate daily for each school day. I liked the idea of having one for every single school day in my head. But just like if you were making dinner, for 100 people for a year, you wouldn't need 365 different dinner menus. So so there's all videos. There's the manual. The manual also has how to, the sound equipment that you'll need, which isn't much. It has the assessments for how the kids self-assess themselves. It has physical assessment checklists. It has the letters to send home to the community. Basically has everything that I did at school number one, which included, putting up a big banner that said Overland in Motion, moving together every morning for healthier minds, bodies, and attitudes. All of that stuff is in the manual. And so they get that. And I've had schools launch who have never had an in-person training and blow it out of the park. And then I highly recommend, though, we do a whole school training for the whole staff. And what I have found is even where you have a teacher who has seen the programming and has come out and has seen it and taught it to themselves, by getting in front of the whole staff, and you do that by going to their actual teacher meetings, which are once a week in every school anyway, and you actually do the program with them. So that's the big thing. They experience the shift and they go, oh, wow. So even at the schools where their school has been doing it and they have somebody who's been leading it, once those teachers get a look behind the scenes and understand all the connecting of the dots, and they understand that those materials, because when a school signs on for the whole school, every teacher gets access to everything. So they could be using it in their classroom. I mean, you're teaching a geography on North Carolina or South Carolina, you get them up, you get them down. So we like to do those trainings, and those trainings have been very successful. One other thing I want to say about a school doing it is something else that came up. So over the years, it was like, well, can we do this before school? Can we do this after school? Can we do this in the afternoon? It works. I mean, it works any time of the day, and it works with, and I love mornings. I think mornings matter. Like you said, set your whole day up for the best possible success with everything. But the other piece of it works with 2 people, and it works. I've done it with 900 people to school. We had classroom teachers who would come to us and say, you know what? I do not want to deal with my whole school. I don't want to deal, but I want to do this with my class every day. And so that was the other thing. It was like, okay, well, so now we have individual subscriptions. So a teacher can sign up, or, I have some parents who have signed up and they've been allotted time before the school day to do something, and they get access to everything. Like, we weren't going to say, well, just here's some of the material, here's part of the program. So, and they just use the videos and they do it.
So how is this funded? Is it all funded by people paying for the program, or do you mentioned some grants and things that you got for the school? You don't have to tell me all the pricing, but
it's been, so we are a nonprofit organization, a 501c3, that we basically had schools ready and who wanted our product and our programming. So we didn't go out and raise a bunch of money and have capital to pay salaries and then to do it. We went on the social enterprise model, which is schools pay a very, very reasonable fee, whether it's the whole school or the individual. And so the way that works, so schools basically as a board, we find a way to make it work for the people who really want to use the materials, because we believe if those people use it, then it grows from there, which is what it has. But basically, so some schools come up with the monies themselves. Some will have a booster club. Schools in the underserved areas, a lot of them actually have some budget money because they have money from more resources. And then in other situations, there's been an outside organization that has given us a grant because they've seen our program. They're like, oh my gosh, well, we need to do something like that here. So they grant the money for the school to be able to do it. And then, there's been times we've gone to where I pick and choose where to put my time is. I'll go to conferences where we will actually do a live 1-hour session. And then from there, we'll offer like a 1-month free trial for teachers, and they go back and use it. And it'll be those teachers. We sold it to a district who that teacher went back and they were doing it. And they said, well, we need to be able to do this in every school. And that's a perfect example too. So that district purchased it, and every teacher in every school has access. Some of them are using it for movement breaks in the middle of the day. There's so much material and content to utilize. And so we just try, it's an unusual story because we didn't set out to be a business. It was one person who set out to do something, but it's a great program. And that's
so Apryl, how often do you still get to go out to schools, or how many different trainers do you have now? How does it work?
So it's funny you should say that, because up until the past 2 years, I led it every day for 5 years. 5 years every day. That's over 800 and something days on our local schoolyard. It was already expanding during that time by year 3. When I stopped teaching it at the local school, I went out and I would go work at other schoolyards throughout the day. Because if I was getting a school on board, it didn't have to be first thing in the morning. I could come out and do it with them at 10. So the way I teach teachers how to do it at the school is with the kids present. Yep. So we all just go out and do it. And also, I'll give them a schedule of rotating classes through, and my trainers will do that too. And the people that become the trainers are the teachers who lead this at schools. They love to go out and teach other teachers. It's fun for the adults. But to answer your question now, this past school year and this year are the first times that I'm not actually going to a schoolyard regularly. I go to conferences. I just went and trained at school. I work part-time as a lawyer for a company. I love working for them. It's a technology media company, but the founder and CEO, he's so smart and intelligent, and everybody working there, I believe in that creative energy, and it keeps inspiring me. But and we've actually started doing movement breaks there in the afternoon.
Perfect.
And it's funny. Yes. I sat quiet for a long time there, and then recently on Halloween, I'm like, I can't not say anything now. And I did, and we did it once, and they asked for more. But so to answer your question, I'm not on the schoolyards as much, and I miss it. Personally, it's one of those things, like nothing's better, as I'm sure you find when you're out at the camp and with the kids and integrating. But as schools find us, we go out, and that's part of the yin and the yang. We didn't go out and raise money. I personally, at some point in this, realized I didn't want to lead a huge company. That's not for me to spend my time. I didn't want my livelihood to be dependent on this. So we have it all there. I would love to find an organization that had boots on the ground, and it's, we've proven it can be replicated. We've proven it works, all these things. If somebody wants to take it and scale it, great. And it's all very, I've kept it in a way where they could still do that. But in the meantime, not just it could be forever. That's why when people reach out, like I said, I went to Nevada, I'm going to Colorado this summer. We work with an organization, Active Schools US, which took off where Let's Move.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So this is important for people to know. So when Michelle Obama, when the Obama administration was in place, there was Let's Move. And a lot of people really identify any kind of physical activity in schools or focus on nutrition with the Let's Move initiative. And it was wonderful. It brought a lot of awareness. And then when the administration was out, Active Schools kind of took over where that same thing. So it's a collective movement where organizations like myself, but some very, very big organizations with big budgets, we're all part of this. And the idea is that Active Schools is doing the messaging. And then, so for instance, if I knew I had a grant for Illinois, I would put it in the Active Schools newsletter, and they would get that out. And now they're going to run a camp for teachers, you could be a parent and go. I went to one when I was trying to get ideas back in 2009 in Colorado. And that's something, so I'm going to go to that, and we're going to do free trainings for the week, because I know I've done things like that where teachers are going to go out there and they're going to use the materials that way. So, and we actually offer a discount through Active School too for people that sign up to be a champion. So
That is so exciting. I love this work and it's so important. I think, I was thinking about how then the kids can bring it home too. If how great if the kids bring home the dance and get the
Oh, they
adults,
do. Oh,
you
I
know?
hear that kids are teaching their younger sibling in the
Hmm.
bathtub. They're doing peanut butter jelly time, or with the parents. I've heard from all kinds of things. Somebody was at a bat mitzvah and they'd never seen seventh graders get up and actually dance before, but they did because a song came on, like you said, that they knew. I mean, it's really just like it's contagious and
Oh,
it
yeah.
transcends that. So, as
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh.
I
Yeah,
get
that is
excited.
very, I feel like you should recruit camp people to be your trainers and to go out to school, like all these camp counselors and all these.
I have had camp counselors. I've had myself personally, I'll go to yoga classes or, these companies like Core Power Yoga. I don't know if you're familiar with their programming or Soul Cycle. What these companies do is now they're active, but they're also sprinkling all that positive
Yep.
messaging.
Yep.
It's not an accident. I mean, that's what people like to be part of that. But I've had
Hmm.
those teachers. I've got so many people who would love to work full time for us and go out and be trainers. And that's why, for me, this program, I mean, I have 3 human children who obviously I absolutely adore and nothing's better than them. And this program is my 4th child. And it's
Yes.
like the best thing I've ever done in terms of I created it out of my head and I've seen it and I've witnessed it. And quite frankly, it plagues me sometimes too, because it's here and it's developed. And over the past several years, this whole awareness as to mindfulness and wellness,
Hmm.
and obviously it's not a new thing. It's been around forever, but not everybody's been talking about it. It certainly wasn't on bus stops. And so now the time is so right for it. And I'm not saying aren't other good things out there, but again, if somebody goes through our materials and like I said, all this messaging and it's all there and it's all put together, it's a shame for it not to be used by more.
Right. Right.
There's 65,000 public elementary schools in the United States alone.
Right.
So I would love for your camps and camps too. I actually have some camps, school districts who run. There's many different people and places that have reached out to us. I've had a mental health center in Pennsylvania
Hmm.
reach out to use our material. It's really kind of universal in terms of
Yeah.
how it could be used. And we really do want to help anybody and everybody who wants
I
to.
do think it could be scaled to places of work. Honestly,
Oh,
have you had everybody start the day like together, like doing, like, I just think about how when a song comes on at camp that we all dance to, like Footloose, how
no,
the entire dining porch jumps up.
100%, 100%.
I mean, it really should, but I think schools are obviously the right place. So this is only in elementary schools. And one of the things that has bothered me is when kids get to junior high and high school, how really, I mean, the PE isn't that fun.
No, it's
And they
go
don't
run
have,
laps.
yeah, and they don't have recess really
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
And so my I remember, especially with my boys, like thinking, oh my gosh, they went from elementary school where they were out like throwing a football around on the field and running around and just they had like more playtime at school, to like almost nothing. Like, let's stand around, and now stand around on our phones because a lot of schools allow them.
Yeah.
So I see a need for this, not just in elementary school, honestly, because I know I just recently, someone I had on my podcast, she's a youth sports expert and she does trainings for coaches. And I guess most kids quit sports by 13.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now when you think about so in elementary school is a really important time to keep kids active and get them into the habit of knowing how good it feels to be active.
Right. So that they know that, and it was because they've been active.
Yeah.
No, 100%. And actually, just to kind of let you know, we are in several schools that are K through 8. And
Good.
have the older kids doing it. And, there's so many, because then even in the elementary schools, you can have the 5th graders. There's so many ways that this plays out with the older kids are incentivized and they get up and they become the leaders, or they have movement buddies. But it's certainly even in middle schools, it's harder to get the whole school because there's just so many more students.
Mm-hmm.
But PE teachers certainly could start off
Yes.
and again, it's all how you serve it up, because
Yeah.
even in elementary school, depending on where you're at, you might have a fifth grade teacher say, oh no, my kids, they're not going to go for this. Meanwhile, another fifth grade teacher, like their kids are eating it up. It's like serving spaghetti to a 12-year-old versus a 3-year-old. The 3-year-old might really like the Mickey Mouse thing. The 12 or 13-year-old, not so much. By the time they're like 18, they're ready to see the Mickey Mouse ball again, and so we also have one of the PE teachers who started leading this in one of our first schools that expanded the program was in Northern California, and he coaches high school football. And so he coaches high school football and chooses to teach elementary school PE. And so he had his players at the high school, they would do this at the rally. So it's it's just conducive. It makes everybody feels good, and schools just need to create the setting. And that's why, I have had those high school teachers who will weave it in. So it is not primarily we're in elementary schools because like you said, you can only focus on one thing at a time. It's definitely, well, you can, or maybe 12 things at a time. It's definitely a K through 12 curriculum and checks the boxes for that. And it's definitely, the school district that has it available, the teachers use it, as they will for warm-ups. And again, that collective positiveness. And yeah.
What if you somehow got it into the teacher education programs for PE teachers?
Yes. So we do that as well. In fact, part of the grants we found out about and were granted were a woman who used to be the head of the National Association of PE Teachers and also as a professor at Cal State University Northridge and was head of that program for years and years and years. She found us and we worked with her. So we do. I mean, so there's so much possibility, and that's why it's so hard because, and I'm happy to be talking to you. And if anybody hears this and wants to work with it, because there is so much potential and it's here. Like the product is here, it's developed, it's used. And we've seen those students, I've worked with the students at the college level, not just at Susan. And again, those are those other people reaching out to me. Hi, April, I'm still here. But the teacher training and development, and we see a lot of those students are at conferences, a lot of them, and they're going to go out there and be new teachers, and they just love it. And any good teacher really loves the fact that you tie in the other curriculum and other topics. But the teacher training programs, it could just be a part of it from day one. And that's what I really like about the Active Schools collective movement is that we're working with the University of Northern Colorado, and they'll be hosting this program in the summer. But no, you've got it all. You see all the past sunshine. That's why I was really excited to talk to you.
This is my problem because I'm like you, like, ooh, and we could do this and this and this, but it's really exciting, and congratulations on setting this up. And I think it will go far, and it just needs, like you said, the right person to kind of take it under their wing and go with it, because it does seem to me it's something that needs to be in every school. Like it's so research backed. I think all the movement stuff is research backed, even if there hasn't been specific research on your program.
Right.
We know enough about the importance of physical movement and how brains work now. They're learning so much about neuroscience that I think 100% everybody can get on board with. This is good for the teachers and the kids and everybody. So I just love it. Okay, well, I am going to put all the links in the show notes, April, but why don't you just tell your name of your website and the URL just in case people want to get to it without looking at the show notes.
Absolutely. So it is myschoolinmotion.org. And it's my school because, again, it's that we're all part of this. So each school, is when a whole school comes on, they adopt it as there. So myschoolinmotion.org. And what was the second part of that you asked me?
That's the website. So that's how they can find what's going on. And I'm sure there's contact links on there.
Links are there. You can there's a contact link to contact us directly. You could also feel free. Anybody can email me directly at april@myschoolinmotion.org. The piece of that you have to remember is it's April with a Y. So I was
going to say that if you didn't.
Yeah, it's apryl@myschoolinmotion.org. And we will, like I said, I have a committed board, and we execute, and we're able to really help people and help them find a way to bring things to life, one step at a time. It's doable. So.
Well, I really hope some of the parents listening or teachers listening to check out your great program and bring it to their school and start dancing and having fun
There's
with these
lots of
kids.
footage on there. I mean, as you saw, there's
Yeah.
tons of news clips. There's
Mhm.
sample videos you can see. There's just a lot of stuff. So please do.
So much fun. Makes me feel like getting up and dancing
We
now.
will. Practice with us.
Okay,
All right.
Apryl, thank you so much for being on. It's been just awesome talking to you.
Thanks, Sunshine.
As you can probably tell from this conversation, we recorded prior to sheltering in place beginning here in California and throughout the United States. Apryl and her team have now released a few My School in Motion at Home videos that you can try with your kids. You can access those through the links in the show notes for this episode. This month, I'm doing a deep dive into the topic of kindness and growing kindness in ourselves and in our kids. So my favorite resource that I want to share this month with you is the website randomactsofkindness.org. They have a ton of ideas and resources for practicing more kindness. A challenge that many parents are facing having their kids, especially younger kids, at home all day is how to get any time to do your own work or self-care. In a conversation I had last week with experienced homeschool parent Kate Rader, she shared an excellent tip. For each of her kids, she has a special quiet basket or quiet box. It's activities like dot to dots, coloring, or other fun mazes and activities that her kids can do on their own during their quiet time. Since her kids are only allowed to do these activities during the quiet time, they actually look forward to it. Kate reserves an hour every afternoon for quiet time, and it's for both herself and for her kids. It might be something you want to try while you have your kids at home with you. Kate shared a whole lot of terrific resources she's found helpful for her kids' quiet time activities over the years, and you can access those resources at my website. As always, you can find notes, links, and other resources related to today's conversation by visiting my website at sunshine-parenting.com. While you're there, be sure to sign up for my email list so that you don't miss out on any of the great resources I have available for raising thriving kids. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate you sharing it with a friend. Please take a moment to give Sunshine Parenting a rating or review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. Let's end with a quote from my book, Happy Campers. This month on the podcast, on my website, and in the Happy Campers Book Club, we're focusing on the theme of kindness. The excerpt from Happy Campers that I want to share with you this month is from secret number 8, Make It Cool to Be Kind. Viewing both our own and our children's kindness through a growth mindset lens is extremely important. Rather than labeling ourselves or others as kind or unkind people, we can recognize kind behavior and promote the concept that each of us can get better at being kind through intentional practice. The surface level changes that occur when kindness is practiced regularly is a quieter, less volatile family environment. On a deeper level, everyone feels less stressed and happier when we are both the givers and receivers of more kindness. At home, parents can do both small and big things to encourage more kindness. Besides making your home life more pleasant, you'll be raising kind humans who likely will bring positive changes to the world. I'm Audrey Monkey. Thank you for joining me for the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. Join me again next week for more conversations about raising kids who become thriving adults.